Indiana has done very well in the transfer portal, but have the Hoosiers done well enough to have the depth necessary to make a college football playoff run?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Back into a crossover edition of Locked On Hoosiers and Locked On the Portal. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On the Portal and Locked On Hoosiers a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, where new customers can bet $5, and if it wins, you gain $300 to use across the FanDuel app. We're going to be talking about the impending Big Ten championship game, at least it appears to be, the collision course. The Indiana Hoosiers taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes in Indianapolis, December 6th, barring something very unforeseen. And to get to that point, we got a couple areas we got to talk about. Number one, where is Indiana vulnerable? Their roster this year has played very well. Very well. But do they have any cracks? Whether it's misses in recruiting, injuries, misses in the portal, anything like that. And to begin, where is Indiana still looking for that depth piece, that person to step up to add to their roster? The portal has been a key part of it. Is there anywhere else they can gain? To help me figure out all of this, Jacob Goins, Locked On Hoosiers. Jacob, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm fantastic, man. The Indiana Hoosiers are the second-ranked team in the country. How could I not be doing any better? Curt Cignetti's not caught up in all this coaching carousel crap, and Indiana is the best team in college football. Could not be any better in Bloomington.
Yeah, this is frankly unprecedented territory. I'm 52 years old, and there's never been a season like this in Indiana or anything sniffing this.
Yeah.
Nothing close.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So let's get right into the primary point. In my opinion, Indiana is the unmatched best group of coaches for evaluating the portal. I was curious about this last weekend. I saw the spread was like, what was it, 26.5 or something? It was crazy.
Yeah.
I said they probably won't cover that. They probably won't be motivated. Some of their depth took a hit. They lost the defensive end, etc. That game was over as soon as you said hello. It was 28-0 in like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Jacob, tell me, and I mean, we're both IU guys, but tell me if I'm wrong here. There is no obvious crack, right? Even though they lost the starting D end, where would you pick the weakest spot? Like, they've done so well in the portal. Is there one?
Yeah, I mean, between your high school recruiting, which is still getting there, right? But the transfer portal additions that you've made in the last 2 years, when Curt Cignetti took the job, most of the big name guys you hear, especially on the defensive side of the football, are his James Madison guys, right? D'Angelo Pons, All-American corner, Aiden Fisher, All-American linebacker, Michael Kamara, All-American defensive lineman. I mean, those are guys that came from James Madison. Okay, Kalon Black, your second running back. He was from James Madison. Like, that's not supposed to happen. That's called coaching. And they knew they were talented then, and they knew they were talented enough to come with them to Indiana. But it's all the additions that you've made on top of it, too. Roman Hemby, your starting running back this year. He's a transfer from Maryland. Curtis Rourke last year was a transfer from Ohio. Fernando Mendoza this year, he's a transfer from Cal. Like, you're not going out to get guys from Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida. Like, you're going to get P4 guys, yes, and some mid-major guys too, because they fit the system of Indiana. They fit what Bryant Haynes wants to do on the defensive side of the football, a guy like Stephen Daly or those types of players. You go and get somebody out of the portal on the offensive side, again, like Roman Hemby, Pat Coogan from Notre Dame. That was kind of an anomaly. You go to a big-name team, you get their starting center, and he's been one of the best in the Big Ten this season. That's what the Hoosiers have done is we're not going for the biggest names, biggest schools possible. How do you fit our system? How do you fit our program? How do you fit our style? And can you compete with the best in the nation? That's what Indiana did. And so you start looking at this roster and it's like, man, it really is difficult, Brian, to find cracks and find bad parts of this thing for a team that's undefeated. They're blowing people out of the water, and they have the second best odds to win the national championship. But you did mention Kellen Wyatt, who is out we think, for the season. That's not 100% confirmed, but he has a knee thing. He's not listed as out just yet for the year, but he's not going to play for the foreseeable future. But you've had guys like Landino and Daly, and these all sorts of big name players who have stepped up and made big time plays. And when you need them, they've done so. The only one that hasn't really on the defensive line is Michael Kamara, who I mentioned earlier, who was an All-American, was a preseason All-American, and just hasn't gotten there yet. But he leads the team in pressures. He leads the team in getting after the quarterback and letting somebody else eat. And so, man, you start looking for cracks, and I just don't see a whole lot on the defensive side or on the offensive side, too. Indiana's playing really good football right now.
Which player on offense and then on defense can they not afford to lose beyond the obvious? Surratt doesn't count. Mendoza doesn't count. Like the obvious Fisher. Is there anybody people are not realizing, okay, the guy behind him is a good player, but the drop is going to be significant? Where would that be?
Yeah, it's a good question. And funny enough, with Aiden Fisher, he got banged up in the UCLA game in the first quarter and didn't play the rest of the way. Now, we got good news about him. He's questionable, but should be good to go. So thankfully, we don't have to stress about that, I don't think. But, I mean, I go with Pat Coogan, right? Your center on the offensive side of the football. He's been your anchor. He's been your guy. You went and got him from Notre Dame for a reason. And, I mean, he just doesn't miss assignments. The snaps are always on time. They're always on target. He's always doing his job. I would say Roman Hemby too, which is kind of crazy. I know for an Indiana offense that throws the football all over the yard, but UCLA game was different. Indiana ran the ball and they ran it a lot. And Hemby's great out of the passing game as two out of the backfield. I think Pat Coogan and Roman Hemby, if we're going away from the glaring obvious ones on offense, defense is a little bit more difficult because, sure, you could pick D'Angelo Pons, your All-American corner, Aiden Fisher, like we said, the linebacker. But, man, I go to guys like Amari Farrell, your safety on that back end, who is one of, if not the highest graded guy in the Big Ten at his position. And those guys are just so talented. Isaiah Jones is another one at linebacker next to Aiden Fisher. Like, you just have depth around those positions that you cannot afford to lose. So those are guys that you highlight. They're always in the stat sheet, and the Hoosiers can't afford to lose them.
When we come back, I want to talk about Indiana from a slightly different light. Winning the Big Ten or going undefeated is one thing. But to win it all, you got to win 16 or play in 16 games, probably right around that. That's a lot. Does Indiana have the full depth to do that? We're going to talk about that next on this crossover. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda, who crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, including IIHS Top Safety Pick Awards, more than anybody else since August of 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same attention to detail with how we craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And like our players, we are after it every day because we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Thank you once again for making this crossover edition of Locked On Hoosiers and Locked On the Portal a part of your day. Mr. Goins, thank you once again for joining me tonight. This is a lot of fun. And right off the bat, I'm just going to ask you something that Cignetti's never going to admit to, even on his mother's prayer. He would not admit to this, but this is what I've been told a lot of coaches have to do now. If you think you have a chance at a title run, you don't want to tick off other teams and motivate them, give them bulletin board material, but you have to find a way to get a lead and pull your starters to rest them. Mm-hmm. Again, they're going to lie on their mother's grave. They're not doing it.
Yeah.
Do you see any of that, or do you think any of it? I've looked at a few of their snap counts. I think we're to that point now where, come hell or high water, if you want to make a run, you're going to have to cut snaps somewhere. It's touchy. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, I think because of how the UCLA game went, you have the opportunity to do that, right? 56-6, it was
Oh
over
my
after a
God.
pick six from Nico. I mean, this thing was just a total drumming, right? And because of the injury scare to Aiden Fisher, the idea that you got Fernando Mendoza out of the game before the fourth quarter started, like you're able to do that. You got Roman Hemby out of the game too. Like you're able to do that in some of these games, and it's a luxury. It absolutely is. And when you look at the rest of the schedule, right, Indiana goes to Maryland this weekend, which I do think is a little dicey. It's a little sketchy, right? You still have to go to Penn State, which I simply don't know how to grade that game. They play Ohio State this weekend. It could get ugly. They're more talented at one time, but I don't know if you could say that anymore. They're definitely not better coached, and because they don't have one. So that game is weird. Then you play Wisconsin, who's terrible, and Purdue, who is obviously terrible, and they have yet to win a Big Ten game. So the idea is, yes, you would love to do that. But I promise you that Curt Cignetti and Indiana don't treat a game that way. They don't go into a game that way. They don't prepare for a game that way. If that's how it becomes, if you're up by 50 points halfway through the third, sure, you'll put your backup guys in, let them get some work. And Indiana's got some good dudes in there as well. But if you find yourself in a dogfight with Maryland or Penn State or heck, even Purdue on Black Friday at night on the road at West Lafayette, the Hoosiers are going to do whatever they can to win these ball games, and they've had to do that, right? Against Iowa, against Oregon, heck, even against Michigan State. You had to leave your dudes in there and find ways to win, but that's what's so exciting about this Indiana team is they've won in all different ways, all different types. And so, yes, the idea would be to rest your guys down the stretch, but Cignetti wants to go undefeated and have the best season Indiana's ever had.
That last point is important because it's a balancing act. You want to go undefeated. Penn State game, I still think could be interesting. Though I bet you Penn State comes out and plays as hard as possible, and they're going to have trick plays and everything. They have nothing to lose.
Yep.
Aside from that game, you shouldn't have a 2-touchdown game. Even they play at Purdue this year. Is it?
Yep. At Purdue, West Lafayette, again on Black Friday.
Yeah, that'll be a good game in terms of their
ever. By the way, first time ever that game's played on Black Friday. Yeah.
They've got a good quarterback. They can throw it around a little bit, but their defense stinks. This doesn't have the personnel. Indiana will outscore them, blah, blah, blah. So if they get past the Penn State game, I could see some cruising. The Purdue game might be the exception because that's a rivalry thing. They might play their starters a little longer just to make sure. But I'll be curious to see what the fourth quarter snaps are for Hemby, Mendoza, et cetera, for the month of November. I bet it's a below average total compared to the rest of the season. Yeah. That would be my guess.
I hope
hopefully, whoever comes in for Fisher can get some of those reps, because if you win your first playoff game, you want him to be in there in the fourth quarter too. Like this goes all the way through. And as a reminder for fans, when Ohio State played Notre Dame last year in the title game, both teams had multiple offensive linemen that had either been out or switched positions. You're going to have attrition in the playoff too. This is an attrition sport.
Well, and you start thinking too, Brian, down the stretch, right? November of your regular season, Indiana well on their way to playing a Big Ten championship game. And if you continue to do what you do, you'll have a week or so off because you won't play in the first round of the playoffs. You'll actually have a few weeks off between the Big Ten championship game and then when you play in the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. So you'll have a little bit of time off, but that brings up the question. And I know Indiana fans are mad about this because I've already started to hint at it a little bit, but what do you do if you're Indiana, if you get to a Big Ten championship game, but you're a lock to be a top 4 seed in the college football playoff? Are you contractually obligated to play in the game? Yeah, probably because of TV and things, but is it advantageous to play in that game or more advantageous to not play in a Big Ten title game? And I think that's going to be a trend across college football in years to come, where the top teams from the Big Ten or the SEC or the Big 12, they're going to say, no, thanks. I don't want to play an extra game to keep our guys healthy. I don't think that happens for the Hoosiers because you want to win a Big Ten title and, again, cap off this unbelievable season. But just something to think about with the title game and then time off in the college football playoff as well.
That's something I could see somebody doing that's more elite in terms of.
I think Ohio State could do it. Ohio State would absolutely do it.
Ryan Day is a pretty cocky guy. I don't think he would personally, but an old school coach, I could see it like, we don't need to screw you. like a Bill Belichick type, wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, we don't need this. We're not going to get injured. We're the 1 seed or the 3 seed or whatever. Winning this game doesn't gain us anything, but losing could knock us out of that spot. We could lose our starting quarterback. There's a lot more to lose than gain for the top teams like in Indiana, but the Hoosiers won't do that. Just talking more from a rest healthy standpoint.
100%. Last question for this segment. Indiana's schedule down the stretch. Not exactly daunting. Again, the Penn State game, I agree with you. I have no clue how to rank that game.
Yeah.
What do you think they need to work on the most in terms of scheme, whether offense, defense, or special teams? Is there anything you're like, I'm kind of curious about this?
Yeah, I think just lining up and running the football, which is what they did against UCLA and tossing the ball to the backs and getting the tight ends more involved too. I mean, I still think that Riley Nowakowski, your tight end transfer, he's awesome. And I love watching Indiana throw these back end tight end screens and these little slip routes with the tight end. I mean, it's so awesome. And he's such a physical appearance. He's not super tall, right? He's not your Travis Kelce 6'4", 6'5", but he's just a barrel, man. And when he gets the football, a couple of blockers out front, Indiana has scored a couple of times on that. So would love to see him get more involved in the passing game and the Hoosiers just line up and run the ball. I mean, Mendoza didn't have to do a whole lot against UCLA, and he still won by 50 points. That's what I want to see the Hoosiers do offensively. And defense, you can't ask for anything more. I mean, force another turnover or two. I don't know, but they continue to get after the quarterback and do what they need to do. Special teams could be a concern. Indiana's kickoff guy and long field goal specialist is questionable this week. So if you don't have him, that could get a little shaky if you get in a tight ball game. But Niko Ratajčić is your starting kicker. He's 100% on the year on PATs. I think he's kicked only 9 field goals all year. Like, you're fine there, but your kickoff specialist is a big deal. So watch out for that for the Hoosiers.
When we come back, we're going to talk Indiana, Ohio State. Yes, we're going to move forward because I just think that's going to be a great game. And I think it's probably the most unique. We'll answer this after the break, but is this the most surprising Big Ten SEC title game combination that we've seen in how many years? Let's talk about that next right here on this crossover. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus. Powered by Peloton IQ, it's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton has you covered because Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach your peak performance. So if you like running, that's fine. If you want to cross-train, that's fine. They even have a swivel screen so you can do whatever workout you want and mix it up right in the middle of your workout. No problem at all. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Plus today at onepeloton.com. All right, Jacob, this is the most fun part of the show. I'll admit it. For me.
Yeah.
It's dissecting games that we think are going to happen. Obviously, anything's possible. But barring something unforeseen, the collision course is Indiana versus Ohio State.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, I'm going to let you pick it. Who's the unlucky sucker that gets to guard Jeremiah one-on-one?
It's going to be D'Angelo Ponce. That's the guy that has done it all year, and he's considered undersized by some, but he continues to be your lockdown corner out there. He's somebody who's starting on Sundays for you. So D'Angelo Ponce is going to be that guy. If you got to bring somebody over and help, you've got Lewis Moore or Amari Farrell back there, you're good to go there. You're going to have to, but the problem is Cardell Tate still exists too, and that guy's kind of good also. So Indiana secondary is going to have a field day, but then the goal in that type of a matchup is getting after Julian Sand. Can you get pressure on him, make him beat you outside of his comfort zone, which is the pocket? And the Hoosiers have to find a way to do that.
Can they do it with 4? If they can't do it with 4, they're not winning the game. I'm going to tell everybody that's the key. You're not going to win a lot of matchups with Jeremiah. There's nobody in college that will consistently guard Jeremiah.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. He should not be playing college football. Like, that guy could start for the Cincinnati Bengals right now. Like,
100%.
he's that good.
Yeah.
He's that good.
The funny part is the thing that you mentioned, and this is you doing your due diligence. every receiver they have is interchangeable, is a guy that can win 50-50 balls, is a guy that was a national recruit. I covered all of them. They're all from Florida, all three of their starters. I covered all of them. All of them by some service were ranked number one at one point and are not in their class. Like, it's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the question becomes, how in the world do you match that with slowing down their running game? Their running games, that's their biggest weakness, but they got a young running back. Ironically, his name's Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
His mom must have known something. It's just unbelievable.
Or was a Raiders fan growing up. I mean,
yeah, that's wild. But you have to be able to slow down the running game to have any chance at all.
Mm-hmm.
I still think they'll commit more to the line of scrimmage, because if it's 2nd down and 5, it's Katie bar the door. If you give their quarterback carte blanche on run and pass, he's very good. Julian Sayan's one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the country. And then Jeremiah is even more dangerous, if that is possible.
Which is advantage Indiana in terms of the running game, because that's what the Hoosiers, nobody runs on Indiana. I don't care if you're running back, quarterback, I don't care what you are. You do not run on this team between the tackles, on the edge. It just doesn't happen, right? And that is a credit to the guys on the interior defensive line, yes, but it's also that second level of linebackers who can play all over the field. They can drop in coverage. They can get out wide. They can get to the quarterback. That's what they would have to do in a matchup with Ohio State. If you let Julian Sayin sit back there 3, 4, 5 seconds, it's over. You can't defend that. But I think you're the one that said it, and I want to give you credit and go back to it. This was kind of the discussion going into the Oregon game, right? Talking about that Oregon offense with Dante Moore and the receivers they have, guys that'll be playing on Sundays. And look what Indiana was able to do. Don't forget that final score. Oregon, one of their touchdowns was a pick 6. So their offense was very limited that day. So if Indiana does eventually play Ohio State, I think the Buckeyes are a tier above Oregon, obviously. But you were able to do it against an NFL-like offense in Oregon. That gives me confidence for Indiana if they do match up with the Buckeyes.
I would agree, and I'll add on one extra point here. Indiana knows you have to play games with the young quarterback. They're going to show cover 3, roll into cover 1, and Robert, do all kinds of different stuff. Somehow, some way, they got to come up and at least be +1 in turnovers. Every team is going to do that. Yeah. So far, and Ohio State knows this. Like, I don't know how they did this. They lost all 4 of their down linemen on defense. But their defense, statistically, points-wise, is like number 1 or number 2 all-time in their first 6 games in points allowed.
Yeah.
And they lost all 4 D linemen. It's insane.
It's insane to watch. I mean, that's a defense that has shut down Washington's offense, right? I mean, that and made them just look elementary, right? Made them look like a JV team. And that I love that Washington offense. I love that Washington team. I mean, they just, and that game wasn't overly sexy for Ohio State, right? What, 24-7 was that the final score of that game? I'm pulling up their schedule again. They made Texas look bad, which Texas may be a little overrated. Washington scored 6 points. Illinois scored just 16, which Indiana held them to 10, but that's fine. I'm curious on what Ohio State does the rest of the way. They just don't play any crazy offenses, right? Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and Michigan. Those offenses stink. So what are they going to do when they get to the college football playoff? They're one of the best in the nation, but I want to see them. I'm so excited and I'm so hopeful that Indiana and Ohio State get to play, because I think the Hoosiers are better than even Ohio State fans give them credit for. Ohio State fans are not the only ones, but they'll be the last ones, Brian. You know this. They'll be the last ones to accept the fact that Indiana's good at football. I still hear it from Ohio State people that Indiana's not good enough. Has the talent gap closed? Absolutely. Is Indiana better than Ohio State talent-wise? No. But the Hoosiers can absolutely beat that Ohio State team. I confidently believe that. Give that game on a neutral field in Indianapolis, anything can happen.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And if you're +1, especially if it's a scoop and score, the momentum in a neutral field game in Indianapolis, which is that game's played about 60 minutes from where IU plays its home games.
Yep.
I would imagine it would be pretty interesting to see how Ohio State, who, as you duly noted, they're playing very slow paced to counter any chance of their young quarterback screwing it up.
Yeah.
They're giving him
on purpose. They've done it on purpose.
Because they know nobody's going to score on them. They're playing borderline Woody Hayes football with a little more passing because of who the receivers are.
Yeah. Yeah. And that does worry me about what they'll do when they have to, right? If they just unload and unleash an extra level. But how many times have we seen it in football or in other sports where a team thinks they're so good, right? And they hold back and they don't let it all go. And then when it's time to turn it on, they struggle to do so, right? They struggle to hit that extra gear because they haven't had to do it all year. Not saying Ohio State's the one to fall into that trap, but something to keep an eye on. And you talk about defensive scores. Indiana had another one last week. Pick 6 by Aiden Fisher. Just saying, Indiana's got several on the year. Punt return, block for touchdowns, pick 6s, you name it. Indiana's defense has done it.
Yeah, the entire defensive staff for Indiana. I have a feeling a few of those guys are going to have some interviews coming up for better jobs.
Stop it. Nope.
It's just the way it works, man.
But they've learned it. Nope. Don't want to talk about it.
Fair enough. One last question here. Going down the stretch, how much do you think the Indiana players are going to enjoy this? This is the fun part. Like, a lot of these guys, nobody knew who the heck they were.
Yeah.
Like you said, one of the players that's a defensive lineman that's kind of moved up, he played at Kent State. Like, that's arguably the worst program of the last 50 years. And he transfers in, and now he's a key guy on a team that might end up ranked number 1. How much fun is it right now just to be on the Indiana football team?
I mean, it's got to be a blast to a certain extent, right? It's got to be fun. You're talking with all your buddies. You're talking with your family. You guys are chopping it up in the dining hall. But, man, what have we seen and learned about Curt Cignetti? He's all business, man. This dude doesn't let up. You've seen the pictures and the videos of him just being overly, aggravated and mad and furious when they're up by 45. Sounds like somebody else that was winning a lot of games back in the day, does it not? That's what he does, and that's how he operates his football team and his football program. So, yeah, they're enjoying it. But they want more. They're hungry. They understand there's bigger fish to fry than Maryland this weekend or Penn State next week or Purdue at the end of the season. They're going to give everything they've got. But this team is convinced they can win it all, and that's where the fun comes in. There's nothing more fun than winning championships and winning titles. That's what Indiana's trying to do this season, but it's an absolute blast to be an Indiana Hoosier right now.
Can't imagine it being any different than that, brother. You said it very well. Jacob, tell everybody where they can find your work.
Yeah, if you're watching or listening on Locked On the Portal, you can check us out on Locked On Hoosiers. Same way you found the portal, you can find us. Just search Locked On Hoosiers. We're a daily show talking all things Indiana football and basketball, Brian. Basketball season is a week away. In case you forgot, Hoosiers tip off in a week on the hardwood with a brand new head coach. So come on over, check us out at Locked On Hoosiers.
Absolutely. You can check out the portal wherever you get your podcasts like Podbean, Apple, and Spotify, and of course on YouTube. This has been a crossover, Locked On Hoosiers and the Portal.